For more insight on the latest developments, let's speak now with Nader Hashemi. He's an associate professor of Middle East and Islamic politics at Georgetown University. Professor, firstly, I want to get your reaction to the news of daily 4-hour pauses that the White House is calling a step in the right direction. But some critics are calling this meaningless, a distraction. What's your take?
Yeah, put me in the latter category. I don't think this is going to change the overall human rights catastrophe that has been unfolding in Gaza over the last month, where we see certifiable war crimes and crimes against humanity. The images that you just showed on your screen are clear evidence of forced population transfer, which under international law is a war crime. Those people who are, I think, praising this 4-hour humanitarian pause are doing so because it allows Israel to achieve its military objectives. But I don't think those military objectives are going to establish the type of stability and peace that many of us in the international community want to see in the context of this conflict. So I'm very skeptical about these humanitarian pauses.
Well, this news was announced by the White House, and given that Mr. Biden was pushing for 3-day stoppages, what does this tell us about U.S. influence or leverage over Israel?
Well, it tells us that the United States simply doesn't want to use the enormous leverage that it has over Israel. Let's not forget that the United States is Israel's biggest backer, supporter, gives Israel roughly $4 billion a year in aid, is preparing another $14 billion aid package to Israel. The United States could stop this humanitarian horror show that we're watching tomorrow if they wanted to do so. They don't want to do so because the United States is very much on Israel's side, regardless of the human rights catastrophe that results from Israeli military action in Gaza. So I think it's important to understand that what we're seeing right now in Gaza is not simply a byproduct of the policies of Benjamin Netanyahu, but they're very much coordinated and supported by the Biden administration.
Well, the events are having a reaction in the wider region. Saudi Arabia is expected to host summits of Arab and Islamic nations this weekend to discuss the Israeli-Hamas conflict. What are the key things that you're looking out for?
Well, I'll be looking to see if there's anything more than simply words. In other words, deeds. Whether the regional countries that are being destabilized by events in Gaza actually decide to establish consequences for Israel and for its international backers over its policy in Gaza. Now, I don't expect that to happen because all of these regional countries are dictatorships that really don't care about human rights in terms of their own internal political rules. So I have no great hope that they're going to take forceful action. But I do want to say that theoretically, the Arab countries that are upset by what's happening to the Palestinians, 11,000 people killed, about 4,500 of them children. These Arab countries, particularly the oil-producing countries, do have enormous leverage over this political conflict. And I'm talking about the oil that they produce. If they wanted to use that oil to send a message to the United States and to Western backers, they could easily do so. And this is not simply a hypothetical pipe dream. In 1973, after the Arab-Israeli War, King Faisal of Saudi Arabia actually imposed an oil embargo on the supporters of Israel, and that completely changed, U.S. foreign policy calculations. So theoretically, these Arab dictators, do have leverage to bring an end to this bloodshed. I don't think they're going to use their leverage because they don't really care about Palestinian suffering. They don't care about human rights because they're brutal dictatorships to begin with. And the theme of Palestinian nationalism is deeply upsetting to them because Palestinian nationalism, as we have seen over the last 4 months, stirs up popular mobilization within the Arab and Islamic world. And that's deeply threatening to dictators who want to maintain a stable status quo.
Well, if we turn our attention then to events on the ground, Israel's military said it was conducting counter-terrorism raids in Jenin and in the West Bank with reports of 18 Palestinians killed and at least 20 others injured. How fragile is the situation there? Do you think there's a chance things could flare up on a larger scale?
Well, I think they already have. Yeah, I think they already have flared up. I mean, the numbers that I saw today was almost 200 Palestinians killed in the West Bank, since October the 7th. There's no Hamas presence in the West Bank. This is very much about the realities of Israeli occupation, of Israeli apartheid, of the dehumanization that goes with, colonial settlement expansion. This is the inevitable result when people start to resist. The colonial occupying power clamps down hard, and you get a lot of loss of bloodshed. So I suspect we're going to see more loss of life in the West Bank as this conflict continues. I don't think it's going to rise to the level of what we're seeing in the Gaza Strip in terms of the human rights catastrophe, but I think that potential is always there. What I'm very worried about is that things go wrong in the Gaza Strip. If there's some sort of major catastrophe, Israel's hawkish right-wing extremist government might see an opportunity to do what many of these extremist ministers have always wanted to do and expel the Palestinians out of the West Bank so that Israel can proceed with its settlement expansion policy. That's the big fear that I have. It remains to be seen whether that will happen or not.
All right, Professor Hashemi, we'll have to leave it there for now, but thank you very much for your time and your insight this morning. Associate Professor Nader Hashemi from Georgetown University.